The first snow of December always made me feel like a kid again, but that year, the cold bit deeper than usual. My name is Alyssa, and until last Christmas, I thought my father and I shared an unbreakable bond. He was my rock, my biggest supporter, the man who raised me after mom passed away when I was 12. But last December, everything changed. I had been planning a surprise Christmas Eve dinner for him. I'd saved up for weeks, bought his favorite bourbon, even found the same antique watch band he'd lost years ago. It was going to be perfect. But when I called him to confirm our plans, his voice was hesitant. "Sweetheart, I can't make it this year," he said. At first, I thought maybe he was sick or traveling for work, but then he added, "I'm spending Christmas with someone special. I think you'd like her." Her. That was the first time I heard about Cassandra, a woman 20 years younger than him, with a smile that looked like it had been practiced in a mirror. Apparently, they'd been dating for almost a year, and I had no idea. I tried to be understanding. My dad deserved happiness, right? But what stung was the way Cassandra slid into our lives like she had always belonged. She made changes to his house, rearranged his schedule, and even suggested that maybe we didn't need to have our weekly father-daughter dinners anymore. Then came the real slap in the face. On Christmas morning, I decided to surprise him anyway. I drove through the snow, gifts in hand, my heart pounding with anticipation. But when I pulled into his driveway, my stomach turned. Parked in the spot where I had left my old Honda countless times was my mother's car. The same pale blue 1968 Mustang my dad had promised would always stay in the family, until it broke down 3 years ago and he said it was too costly to fix. Now it was gleaming, restored, and clearly hers. I knocked on the door. Cassandra answered, wearing my mother's old holiday sweater, the one I'd given to dad to keep safe after mom died. She didn't even look embarrassed. "Oh, Alyssa, we weren't expecting you," she said sweetly, blocking the doorway just enough so I couldn't see inside. My dad appeared behind her, his expression a strange mix of guilt and irritation. "Maybe we can talk later, honey. Today's complicated." And that's when I noticed something else, an unfamiliar teenage girl sitting at the dining table, wearing a bracelet I recognized instantly. My mother's. I didn't say a word. I just turned, walked back to my car, and drove home. 2 days later, I had a plan. If Cassandra wanted to erase my mother from our lives, I was going to make sure she, and my father, would regret it. Forever. For 2 days, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying the scene in my head, Cassandra in my mother's sweater, my dad looking at me like I was the intruder, that girl with my mom's bracelet. The betrayal burned so deep I could almost taste it. But anger without strategy is just noise. And I wasn't about to make noise. I was going to make an earthquake. First, I needed information. I started by quietly following Cassandra's social media. She had a public Instagram and it was a goldmine. Selfies in expensive restaurants, shopping bags from high-end stores, captions dripping with hashtag blessed and hashtag living my best life. But the most interesting part? None of this could have been funded by her low-level marketing job. I dug deeper, scrolling months back, until I found older posts tagged at an upscale casino in Atlantic City, always with the same group of friends. A little more searching and I discovered 2 of them had criminal records for fraud and money laundering. And then, jackpot, literally. Cassandra had posted a boomerang of poker chips stacked high with the caption, "When you know how to play the game right." That was the thread I needed to pull. Next, I reached out to an old college friend, Max. He's a private investigator now, the kind of guy who can find the skeletons in anyone's closet. I told him I'd pay, but he refused to take my money. He remembered my mom and how she used to bake cookies for all my friends. Within 3 days, Max handed me a neatly organized folder. Inside was everything: Cassandra's real name, not Cassandra, her multiple aliases, past arrests for credit card scams, and, this one hurt the most, evidence she'd drained over $40,000 from my father's accounts since they started dating. And my father had no clue. The part that made my blood boil? There were love letters from Cassandra to a man named Eric, dated just last month. Turns out, my dad wasn't the only one she was dating. I thought about confronting my father directly, but I knew he'd just get defensive. Cassandra had her hooks in him deep. If I wanted this to work, I needed to break her grip in a way that left no room for doubt and no way for her to recover. So I started small. Anonymous tips to her workplace about her fraudulent past, fake emails to her boyfriend Eric from a burner account, pretending to be her, setting up a romantic weekend on the same days she claimed she'd be visiting family. But the real move, the one that would shatter everything, was going to happen on New Year's Eve. Dad had invited me to a big party at his house. Cassandra had bragged about it online, calling it the event of the year. That was fine by me, because by midnight, her perfect little world was going to explode. New Year's Eve arrived with a sharp winter chill, but I felt nothing except the steady hum of adrenaline. I slipped into a simple black dress, elegant but unremarkable. Tonight wasn't about me being noticed. Tonight was about her being exposed. Dad's house was buzzing when I arrived. Music thumped, champagne Champagne glasses clinked, and Cassandra floated through the crowd like she owned the place. She wore a sparkling silver gown and that smug smile I'd come to hate. My father stood beside her, beaming, oblivious to the snake coiled at his side. I smiled politely, kissed my dad's cheek, and let Cassandra air kiss mine. "Glad you could make it," she purred. "Oh, I wouldn't miss it," I said, my tone sweet as sugar. I made small talk with guests while keeping my phone in my hand. Everything had been set up days ago. A shared Google Drive folder filled with Max's entire investigation file, screenshots of Cassandra's messages to Eric, bank statements showing the missing money, and even photos of her with her casino crew. The link was ready to go live at exactly 11:59 p.m., sent to every guest's phone, my dad's inbox, and Cassandra's work email. But that wasn't the only surprise. At 11:50, I excused myself to the bathroom and slipped into Dad's home office, where his laptop sat open on the desk. I had installed a small slideshow earlier in the day, images from the investigation folder, time to play automatically when the big screen TV connected to his music system switched to the midnight countdown feed. By 11:58, I was back in the living room. The crowd gathered, champagne was poured, and the giant TV showed the Times Square countdown. 10, 9, 8. As the clock hit 6, the feed cut abruptly, not to the New York ball drop, but to Cassandra's mugshot from her first arrest. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then came the screenshots of her texts to Eric, photos of her in casinos, and finally, the bank records. Cassandra froze. Her perfect smile cracked as whispers erupted around her. My father's face drained of color. "What the hell is this?" Cassandra shouted, spinning toward me, but before I could even answer, the room lit up with chimes and vibrations, everyone's phones buzzing with the same Google Drive link. "Looks like your other boyfriend might want to see this too," I said quietly. My father stepped forward, voice trembling. "Is it true?" She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Someone in the crowd laughed. Someone else muttered, "Unbelievable." By 12:03 a.m., Cassandra had stormed out into the snow, heels sinking into the slush, silver dress dragging behind her. She didn't even wait for her coat. My father didn't say much that night, just sat down with his head in his hands. But a week later, he called me. His voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "You saved me, Alyssa," he said. "And, I'm sorry, the Mustang is back in my garage now, so is my mother's sweater." And Cassandra? She never showed her face in our town again.